Hey, welcome once again to C9K, the show where we talk containers, Kubernetes, cloud, cybersecurity, following the trends, WTFs, big money, and we're going to deep dive into some tech. My name's Steve Jaguar.
And I'm his co-host, Mike Foster, and we got a packed last show of the year for y'all watching. Steve's going to be talking / giving a demo on Minder. We're doing our reInvent wrap-up and our top 3 articles of the year. And there's been some crazy hacks, along with disclosures to the SEC we need to talk about. Welcome to the show. Yes,
Right,
it's
this is it.
C9K. Yeah, a little zingy. And to end the year, C9K, where you can follow everything that we're going to talk about below in the YouTube comments. Of course, hit the bell so you know when we're back next year. I think we're planning second week in January, but we'll see how hungover we get over the holidays. Until then, we have a little wrap up for you to kick off the show, along with Steve's reInvent thoughts. But I figured we start with our top 3 year-changing articles. I didn't know how we wanted to phrase this, but the ones that caught our eye at least.
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
No, take it away.
All right. I picked things. Now, I think we do 20 shows, and we have about 10 links per show. So there's like 200 things to choose from that we have talked about over the year, which is amazing when we scroll back and look at everything that we've done. But I chose at number 1, the Bing AI Unhinged, where reporters were talking to it, and it was like going, "No, you're wrong. I am right. I'm a good bot. You should leave your wife and spread disinformation with me," or something like that. It just went wild. I thought that was an awesome way to start like the open AI and AI infused 2023 that we've had. That was pretty cool. Let's rotate. You give me your number 1.
My number 1 was CVSS 4.0, that release / update last month that's coming out, because that is going to change the way, let's say it's going to be probably an 8-year process of security making changes, adapting, understanding new risk, and associating it. And, these things are not taken lightly. So to me, that's a big changer.
All right. Security is important to foster. That's good to know. All right, my next one was the Terraform, then OpenTF, then OpenTofu that kind of rocked the open source and, well, maybe not so open source world, certainly rocked the HashiCorp world a little bit. That was pretty awesome. And I think more to come as to how will that unfold? Will OpenTofu be a thing? Terraform? I don't know.
And we'll see how businesses adapt. I think businesses were always skeptical of open source, if it's going to make money or not. Terraform seemed to be maybe shifting the winds. So we'll see how that plays out. The second one for me, another security one, is Salsa graduates to level 1. Salsa announces their 1.0 release. For me, these are 2 things that whenever we're developing a product or talking about a new feature, we take these considerations into mind. Does it fit in the framework? Are people going to be able to use it? How is CVS 4 going to interact with our product? And so to me, I think it's the 2 things that are going to change the security landscape moving forward.
Excellent. Very sensible choices. Mine are a bit wild. And I decided to choose, kind of boring, I suppose, what I thought was the best big spender of the year. And that was Endor getting a Series A of 17 million.
70.
I thought 70.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Let's be clear. That's massive. And Endors seem to have a finger in every pie. You got some cool tech. So yeah, I think credit. They're going to be a mover and shaker in 2024.
Oh, for sure. And then my last one was the Move It hack. So on the crazy hacks, that was one. I don't think we've still really heard the damage that it's done, because it had done so much, especially to the federal government, and continues to be a menace out there. But that one, we'll talk about it probably next year when all the dust settles.
Yeah, that's still going on. A little bit like the honorable mention to the Okta hack, and we've got an update on that coming up.
Yeah, but if you have one that you think changed the world, we were just talking about the AI people in Instagram that are making like $12,000 right before the show. There's
Yeah,
a bunch
fake
that we
people.
consider that didn't make it in, so leave it in the comments. Let us know what you think.
All right,
On
cool.
to the next
So,
part. Steve's coming back from reInvent. So the
there
4-day,
it is.
4-day craziness for AWS in Las Vegas. What happened?
Typical mayhem. Yeah, it was 4 days of like realizing you can't possibly get to anything you want to see. You meet a lot of people without putting any effort in at all. You walk in and there are the people who you expect to see, and it just seems to be nonstop. So as a social, it's pretty awesome. There were our parties every night, of course, where everything kind of gets out of hand. There was one night where I had to go to like 3 different events, like back to back to back, and it was like I just lost it and I had to go home early. So it was super fun. The keynotes were as you would expect, right? You've got the Adam Zalipsky one, which is like very corporate, and then the second one I can't remember his name, which is there you go. I didn't even watch that one. Then the third one, the Werner Vogel one, which of course is always super entertaining. He was wearing a raw. He always has a different T-shirt on at the beginning of it, and he was wearing a really obscure Tom Morello band from like the 2000s, which was awesome. I can't remember what they're called, the SSSS and whatever that stands for. That was great. And then he did a very different keynote. He did not talk about product for like an hour. And you can go to a new website that was launched called thefrugalarchitect.com, and it's got like 7 rules for architecting for sensible cost, which I thought actually were some great rules for sensible security as well. It was just making sure that you're keeping things tidy. And I thought, and it was tying cost directly to sustainability, because he said, if you're spending too much on Amazon, you're probably not being very sustainable. That there's a direct correlation between cost and sustainability. So that was the crux of his talk. But in addition to that, there were some pretty cool tech announcements. And I think that's going to be our first 2 items for the general news.
Let's do it. All right. First up on the docket, add to stage. There we go.
Deep dive into the new EKS pod identity. Now, before I get into this article, because this is a lot to process, ability basically for pods to have programmable identity. Did you go through this? But I want to give commentary or pass over commentary, because I've got Chris Ferris's review of all the things he liked. Chris Ferris runs Forward CloudSec, and he had a hilarious comment on
Corey Quinn.
Yeah, there is. Pay attention here. AWS is a new way to access and vet. Well, I think it means vet.
Or to really understand it. Do it just because it's cool. That's pretty good.
Just do it because it's cool. Exactly. Yeah. I thought that was a really good description of it. Yeah. Pod identity at a glance. What do you think?
So this just reminds me of something like GitHub Actions OIDC authorizer, right? So like you run a GitHub action, it can go and pull a specific credential for that short-lived amount of time, and I think that's all that they basically added. Am I wrong here in terms of?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. It is a good way of creating, I guess, a pod identity for ephemeral instances. Is short-lived. It's another little piece of security, but I don't know if anybody's going to do it.
Yeah, well, I think it also goes pretty well with some of the new Kubernetes security features, which we'll talk about in a second, where you can bind secrets, you can bind like service account tokens to only one pod, and then if it dies, like it can't be used for another pod or another process. So I think that whole thing will maybe work together in the next year. We'll see.
Maybe
it'll come up.
Integrate.
Yeah, I'll show you what I mean in a little bit more in depth than that. One of the further articles.
So this is the other one that when we saw this one, I was with my colleague Matt, and they announced the S3 Express One one zone high performance storage class, and it was essentially a super fast S3 bucket that was even cheaper than a normal S3, and we were like, wait, how? And we watched the keynote, the Werner, and he didn't even talk about it. Didn't really explain how it was low latency. And I think it turns out it is both compute and storage in one. There's somehow a direct connection between the two. So you're provisioning some, as opposed to the S3 bucket and the compute being completely separate, and it's a combined entity.
Yeah, which makes
That
sense.
seems to, yeah, and that's why it's like so low latency.
Yeah,
And
also
apparently
easier for
cheaper.
management. Like maybe they're saving the cost on that end, right? Where it's bundled
Yeah,
together and it's sized appropriately.
that seems to be the deal. And that was where I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to go read through this a lot more, because I mean, being pretty much the most common combination of usage of compute and storage, like the fact that it hasn't been a combined entity in order to reduce latency in the past is kind of like, okay, interesting, very odd. But I thought those were two pretty decent announcements from our world.
Interesting. What do you think motivated something like that? A decision to cut down on cost for S3? That's shocking.
Well, that's what's interesting, right? Because that came out, and then the keynote was all about cutting down cost and being sustainable. And I thought that actually ties together, and yet I couldn't believe he didn't even talk about this announcement.
All right, I have other hot takes coming up, but here's my hot take: is a lot of the entitlements that have been put forward over the last couple of years are pretty massive in scale, and they assumed, I think, economy and growth and stuff like that. And now I think people are looking to repatriate a little bit more. And so a lot of the cloud is just like, we need to keep this momentum going. We cannot let people start building their own data systems, because once they do, they're not coming back for 10 or more years, right? Like if somebody's spending the money on-prem, they're on-prem for a long time. So I think there's going to be, I think the clouds are willing to cost cut in order to keep people spending money. I think you're seeing this with security products and other things when purses get tight. Is that fair?
I think that's a very logical hot take on why this was. I mean, there were a few announcements regarding the monitoring cost spending, because there are third-party entities out there that are there to try and reduce your cloud spend. And I think Amazon has realized we can just do that ourselves. True. And as you say, prevent the mass exodus from expensive cloud land. Yeah, nice one.
Yeah, the next one we have was Armo. I put this one in, is 1.2 general enhancements, but specifically security ones. So the security perspective, I thought the pod lifecycle one is pretty cool. The sleep action is in alpha. That one right there, where if a container dies or can't start or anything like that, it will delay for 60 seconds. So you can at least grab the logs, and then you can set up, you could set up specific log pulls so that it's not terminated, and then you have to be chasing a ghost for a while. I'm kind of surprised it took this long.
Yeah, it is one of those things where it's been a pain in the backside for so long. It's like, oh, someone had an epiphany and went, let's do this.
And then if you go down, there's a little bit more on the security side. Ensure secret pulled images, support for user namespaces, reduction of secret-based service account tokens. So in addition to the bound service account token improvements, which is the one I was talking about, where you bind a service account token, it's only used for that pod and basically disappears after. It can't be used for anything else. The reduction of secret-based service account tokens. So getting rid of, I think, a lot of the, you boot up Kubernetes and you say, look at service account tokens, and there's like hundreds of them in a single cluster. And you're like, oh, how do I actually like move through this? So I think you can learn more about the enhancement in the KEP. That's where I always go whenever I'm lost. Kubernetes is very good at, what is it? Kubernetes enhancement program. I forget what the short form is, but Armo did a really good job at breaking it down. And you can always, it's really cool. If you ever go to the open source community meetings, they'll talk about this, all the requirements for the specific features that they're adding, and it's all public. It's all in the GitHub repo. So you can see why decisions were made the way they were.
Very cool. Yeah, some pretty excellent enhancements. Yeah, there was the ensure secret pulled images caught my eye. I think that's pretty awesome. More great alpha betas coming in. Next, this was just ridiculous. I just had to get this picture on the screen. Oh, let's see if LinkedIn can take forever to come up, whether I'm even logged in. That. Now, I'm not going to click through. This is just an advertisement for how to do better Kubernetes from this guy's business, wherever he works here. But I just looked at I just thought the graphic made me laugh.
Yeah.
Just a pile of garbage with the little toys, the pod, the staple set. So cute. Little Damon set, little deployment. I don't know if this is a real box and he just like wrote over very carefully, getting all the perspective right. But I just thought it does look like a very typical way that DIY Kubernetes could be represented. Very cool. Well done, Rashid Amir, CEO of Stackator. You can find out more about Stackator by clicking through or Googling it. I'm not going to give us free advertising.
Yeah. Hey, at least he's good at Photoshop if they're not branding it with Legos.
All right.
Hot take time
for us today.
Let's do it. Oh, I need to get rid of that. Yes, hot take time. Okay, I struggled with this one, especially for the last one of the year, but here it goes. Let me know if you disagree in the comments. Tech doesn't outage people. I think a lot of people in tech think there's ageism, there's discrimination. There is, in a certain extent, where if you haven't worked a developer role in 20 years, you're not going to get the developer job. But I think if you get pushed out of, let's say, a certain job because you're too old, I think that it has more to do with you not keeping up with tech over the last years. Like, you outgrew tech, tech didn't outgrow you. I know a lot of people who have been techies since they're 20 years old, and you get on calls with them and they have all of their knickknacks and all their stuff, and they live and they breathe, and they haven't let go of that, let's say, enthusiasm for the tech world. And it's something that drives them to keep learning and keep understanding. And so they grew with the tech world, and they still have tech jobs in their 60s. They're still doing web page coding and developer stuff into their 60s because of that personality. So I think that if you want to go far in tech, especially for that long amount of time, you have to adopt that personality. Otherwise, the people that are younger than you are going to think that you have chosen to outgrown it. I don't think anybody thinks that tech has passed you by. And that is my hot take.
Yes. You're talking about me, aren't you?
Well, I mean, you're still here. You're doing a good job.
Still here.
Also not that old. So
yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Moving swiftly on to our WTFs then.
Yes. WTFs for the first one. This is a really, really funny article.
Yeah.
So Fidelity National Financial is experiencing service disruptions after it has taken down multiple systems to contain a cyber attack. Now, the craziest thing is the hackers actually sent them a letter. I don't know if you can zoom in on that, but
yeah,
it says basically hiring Mandiant has the following effects. You end up ruined. They had a good reputation 10 years ago. Everyone is aware they fell off, so let's just be kind to them now. We expect a blog post in retaliation. Don't stub your fingers, warriors. Their IT department and Mandiant determined that sitting still is the best course of action. Well, we screw them. 30 people in team calls at 3 a.m. America time and still lost. And they go down a bunch more. It sounds like a Eminem rap hit piece.
Yeah. Oh, they are trashing Mandiant. I implore FSF investors to talk some reason into these executives who are gullible enough to fall for Mandiant's disinformation. Oh my God. Woo. Oh my God. See how it ends? Better threat intelligence may be obtained from my deceased mother than from the Mandiant sellout firm. Oh boy. All right. All right. That's scathing. And that's why it's in the WTF section.
Yeah. That is too good. It's funny because we have a follow-up to this one. This seems like a theme. Like, hackers are just, they're in it for political or for clout now, I guess. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, this is also excellent. Ransom. This is just the title. You're like, wait, what? Ransomware gang files SEC complaint over victim's undisclosed breach. You added this one. It is also hilarious.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, the SEC added a legal statute. I don't know what the SEC's rules are called, but you have to tell your investors within 4 days of a hack of something happening so that they can make adjustments. So that otherwise you're basically lying to the stock market about things. And hackers snitched. So they hacked Meridian Link's network November 7th, stole company data without encrypting the systems. So Meridian Link should know about this. They didn't disclose it. And then the hackers reported them to the SEC, which is amazing. Because I didn't even think about it like that. You could hack somebody if they don't disclose it within 4 days. You could use the information that, like, I'm going to report this to the SEC as also a ransom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pay me or I'm going to report this to the SEC. That is, well,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
There it
Yeah,
is. They filled it. This is the screen capture of them filling it in. Yeah, that's nuts. Man. You know, it's like they're hackers, but hey, they're ethical in a way because they want, you know, they care about the stakeholders in the organization that they hacked.
I also think when the SEC makes rules like this, they think, oh, well, there's an exception to the 4-day rule where if it's in the national security interest, you don't have to report it. It's like, well, that's not really going to matter if all the hackers just expose the fact that they got hacked after 4 days, right?
Right.
Does the rule really work like the way it's intended to? I think when people want to see a system get broken, creating another system to like help them navigate it is not really going to help. But
who knows? Hot take. All right, next one. Hard to miss this one. Sam Altman got fired from OpenAI, and then very shortly afterwards was hired back by OpenAI, and it was very confusing. I think this is definitely one of the ones where we point out the links below. Go check it out because this is a weird reverse timeline of him kind of getting back in and creating a new board, but it goes back from, let's see, November 29th, basically the month of November, doesn't it? So we go skip to the end.
So I think they wrote this article and then they've just been updating it as information's come in.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of really good YouTube videos on this if people are looking for it that are way more in depth than a TechCrunch article. But I think it's more the motive that people are very interested in. You know, he gets fired, researchers resign, 500 of the 750 employees all threaten to resign over this, which to get that much buy-in from a single company and the people working under you, that's got to feel pretty good as a CEO, right?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah. Yes. Something somewhere in the board was not right. And I don't know if it is clear on that. Did you see like investors are pushing, board agrees, reverse course? Like why? What was the initial? What did he do? Who did he piss off?
Yeah, I don't know. I have a feeling there are people saying that they're getting close to what is it? AGI, like actual artificial general intelligence. A lot of people are saying no, that's almost never going to happen. / we're years away from that. I have a feeling there's just like ethical, moral differences in how it's going to be applied. Certain investors don't like the direction, but Microsoft offered to take them over, and then they pulled them right back. So
pulled them back, and then a Microsoft observing board member showed up as well.
Yeah,
with them.
I'm pretty sure Microsoft either owns 51% or 49% of OpenAI.
Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? Yeah. So wild stuff. Very weird. Anyway, he's back. It's all good. AI is gonna kill us all eventually.
Yeah, funny how one of the most, let's say, forward-thinking tech companies still has human problems like this, and the drama just spills out. I think just hilarious. Can't wait for the YouTube documentary next year.
Probably find out one of the board members is AI. That's what kicked him out.
Yeah, we don't like how close he's getting to figuring me out. Get him out of here.
Yep. Okay, another one. I added this one, and I think it's pretty hot takey. stop deploying WAFs or web application firewalls. And we've got one. I actually think WAFs are kind of useful, but his initial, distaste, let's call it, is the change in performance he's citing. I don't know what WAF he's talking about, but it's probably not a million miles off most WAFs, really, in terms of WAF versus no WAF here, like the absolute pounding your bandwidth takes and your timing takes and your latency if you're using a WAF versus not using a WAF. You just get slammed. It's the same as, like, I don't know if on your laptop you've got like a firewall or we have Global Protect here, and it is massive having it on versus off, right? It's my own little personal WAF. So he didn't like that, but then he starts to go on about how it is easy to bypass a WAF. Log4Shell is an awesome example of where a WAF was super useful, because the JNDI string that creates the problem, JNDI/LDAP string, can easily be characterized, and most WAFs are already programmed to not allow that through. I know so because I've got a demo CTF that I did at reInvent that uses that string, and if you have your WAF or whatever on, it doesn't work. But it does also say that you can nest lookups, and you can just put a weird version like this in, and you can get past it anyway. So you've got to be, you've got to know every possible derivation in order to get past it. Same thing goes for cross-site scripting. There's a lot of cross-site scripting weird concoctions that you can do. There's this pen tester in Germany named Mario who does this presentation at OWASP like every year saying, nope, XSS is still a thing because look how I can bypass all the rules. So this is kind of, they're saying WAFs are an attack vector. Like, really, you should hide false positives and then at least offers solutions. But I think WAFs maybe aren't great, but they're fantastic virtual patch options in instances where you need something now. And the attackers haven't worked out a bypass. Again, Log4j was a great example of where you could just turn on the WAF and boom. Maybe it hit a performance, but it's not useless. I wouldn't say stop deploying them. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it. Is it more useful something like on your laptop where you can turn it on, turn it off? Or like, let's say you're pushing something riskier to prod for a certain amount of time, or let's say there's a vulnerability that you just got introduced to. It's like you turn the WAF on so that I don't have Log4Shell issues, and then I turn it off once it's patched and once I think that I'm relatively safe. But then you also don't want to be that person turning it on, turning it off, that you get hacked at the wrong time.
Yeah,
whole other issue.
I mean, I think for most WAF rules, there are good programming examples. There's a more solid solution than a WAF in many instances. WAF can be like, if you don't care about performance, throw a WAF at it. If you do, fix it properly.
As an attack vector, I think was really interesting because I don't think a lot of organizations think about their security tools as attack vectors. But like in the next thing, it's a very big one.
Security tool. Oh,
security tool.
Good
affects 100% of customer base. Who'd have thought?
It was 1% before. That's from the first line. Insisted less than 1% were impacted. Now it says it was all of them. Do you guys use Okta?
I don't think so.
We do. Definitely. I'm pretty sure anyway. But I think it's interesting to see, like, it was to do with support cases and interception. Like, it's interesting to see that it's like, oh, 1%? Nah, that's only to say, oh no, it's everybody. Sorry. I wonder like what people are doing internally to make sure, or to tell if you've actually been affected. Like, I think 100% can be affected.
Yeah, and like, what does affect mean? If given that names, email addresses were downloaded, like let's say they got that from one account, but they really just saw basically all of Okta's user base and customer base. It's like technically you're all affected. It's really about, are 100% impacted? Technically, yes, but not really. Probably.
Yeah. Kind of. Oh, yeah. Okta's stock price dropped. What a surprise. Yeah, it's interesting. It's something that I know, I'm pretty sure we use Okta because we had a discussion internally as to whether we were the 1% or whether we had any evidence to suggest we were affected personally, and we weren't. So we're like, all right, cool. And it's just funny to see this come out. And then, do we have to take another look? Probably, right? Just be absolutely certain.
Yeah,
but it went from
I feel bad for their
bad
account
to
team.
horrible.
Their account team's getting no sleep.
No. All right, awesome. Oh boy,
let's spend some money.
We have a special guest watching. I don't know what hand pink waving means, but sounds good. Hey, Michael.
Wiz is making moves into the runtime space. I'm not shocked. Shifting security right now.
So what is Raft? What does it say Raft do? I took a quick look at them and I didn't quite see how it was a fit for them. Developer life.
I saw eBPF somewhere in here. Hold on, let me just.
Oh, of course.
Oh, maybe it was the other one that they bought. But this is one of 2 security tools that they've bought in the last year that are more focused on like runtime security.
Yeah.
And actually like implementation into environments. So I'm wondering if that's the move, because they want, the whole thing is like the code to runtime. And it's the runtime part that they were always missing as part of their platform, right? Because for those watching who don't know, Wiz basically started off as a cloud-based API-driven security tool where they would install into Azure and AKS, or Azure and Amazon and Google, and they would pull all your assets and they tell you how things are connected and what's wrong. But that only works for visibility. It doesn't really actually enforce at runtime. So that's where they're moving to.
I was going to try and figure out where they were. I spelled it wrong. See what they were. Yeah, because they were like a glorified CSPM. That probably sounds really bad, but this is the effortless dev on. There we go. I just have it up. You can flip it back up. Effortless dev on Kubernetes EMS, and we're now part of Wiz. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean I understand what it does. But I mean, if you're curious, just go take a look at it. It's raft.io. 2 T's, not 2 F's. I keep spelling it wrong.
We're going to run out of names in the next 20 years for security companies.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder if you can try for free. No, you can't. Damn. Oh, well.
Schedule a demo.
There's a there's a Get Raft for free on there. Maybe we can do a tool time in the new year. Sweet.
There you go.
Well, anyway, looks that good purchase, I guess, by Wiz. They have a plan. We will wait and see what it is.
Mm-hmm. All right, next on the docket, Armor Code raises $40 million to consolidate security data into one place.
So is this a data security? What did they do? I've heard DSPM. I just heard DSPM, Data Security Posture Management, recently. I was like, okay.
Gathers vulnerability data from connected apps and software infrastructure, consolidating the data into a single location and standardizing it for analysis. So Armor Code, Paladin Cloud, there's a couple others that have come into this space where there's so many security tools. Like let's say you have ACS Kubernetes focused security. That doesn't really help your security team. They don't necessarily want to go into the dashboard. They need something to aggregate it. So they bring the logs out to Splunk, or they bring the logs in somewhere else. And so there's a lot of these data aggregation tools that are popping up where they're pulling info from Prisma and from Aqua and from whatever other security sources you have into one place. So you have a single pane of glass. That's the pitch, is now you have 7 security tools and they don't work together. All right, well, we have an 8th now that'll bring it all together. So we're back to where we were 12 years ago, pre-Kubernetes, when it was all about bringing the VMs and bare metal together. And now it's something different. So
sounds like hell. I mean, honestly, we did a cloud native report this year that, and of all the customers we surveyed, there was 30. They estimated 30 on average security tools, and 6 to 10 focused on cloud.
30 security tools in an organization?
In an organization, of which 6 to 10 were cloud. So
what's considered a security tool?
Might want an aggregator.
Like small firewall. Okay. Yeah.
Anything from firewall to CSPM to point solutions to API security, like anything, right?
Wow.
And so that was our thing. 2 days ago, maybe we didn't put it in here, but should have, as honorable mention. We'll do it now. Code released the state of ASPM, and they had numbers like 50 tools per organization.
Yeah.
They asked the exact same question, and the respondents in theirs said, we have so many tools that it's created blind spots.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so that's wild. So there you go. Maybe that's why Armor Code has money.
Yeah, solving a problem that negligence creates. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, and on to the last one, ChainGuard. We missed this one, I think. I went back in our show notes and I didn't see it. So ChainGuard raised 61 million Series B round as enterprises move to fortify open source software. This came across my radar because they're looking for sales engineers, and all of a sudden, like a bunch of openings opened up, and I'm like, what's going on? Then I looked like, oh, you got 61 million. Congratulations.
Yeah, not doing too bad. See, this doubles down why I chose Endor, who got 70 Series A.
Yeah.
That just puts that in perspective. Still 61 million. No one's kicking out of bed for that.
Yeah, I also looked at ChainGuard's offerings, and they seem very focused still on the operating system, which I found interesting. It's slightly different from like the stack locks and the Endors of the world. It's focused on like trusted content and signing. So I'm kind of interested to see what they do with this next series and where the product goes.
Yeah, it's a lot of money to try and show some sort of technological progress with. So yeah, remains to be seen.
Mm-hmm. All right, we have one vulnerability for you, and then the Minder demo from Steve.
Now, what starts with the letter C?
Never gets old. You added this. Nope. What is it? Is it bad?
I did. So I actually went to the Canadian government to get a proper view at this. This is was discovered in OwnCloud Graph API. The Graph API app relies on third-party getphpinfo.php library that provides a URL. Once the URL is accessed, it really reveals the configuration details of the PHP environment. Basically, OwnCloud, at least the Canadian government, uses this for its file sharing application internally using Graph API, and there's a big impact. So I saw this because all the governments put out an advisory. So it's not, you don't normally get stuff like this from the Canadian government. It's all like a week late or a couple weeks late, and it's after, and it's, but they were pretty on point with this. And so I was like, oh, this is pretty big. And anything file sharing service that comes out from the government, I'm like, wait for it. A hack's going to be disclosed in a couple weeks. They normally don't all put it out at once about a file sharing service unless something's happened. So if they caught this beforehand, good for them, because they also shared all that information and patched it, hopefully. But yeah, I have no clue about OwnCloud.
Yeah,
I just thought this was one of those CVs where I'm like, in the new year, there'll be some breaking.
Something will happen. Yeah. All right, watch this space. Nice one. Good finish.
You know what time it is?
And now.
Does everybody know what time it is?
All right. Hit me. Throw me up on the screen.
Yep. Go ahead. Take it away.
Let's do it. So you just mentioned StackLock. We are in comparison with ChainGuard, a new rising star. Who are the StackLock guys? Is it Craig McLucky and Luke Hines?
Correct.
Those are the founders. Very exciting people in the tech industry. Luke Hines is give some Luke Hines background.
Yeah, Luke Hines at Red Hat basically created SigStore along with the ChainGuard founder, Dan Lorink, who is at Google. Basically, it was a Red Hat Google shared enterprise to create this. They went to the CNCF and donated SigStore to help with signing authorization. The SigStore project has Recore and other things lumped in there. But yes, it's really interesting to see, let's say, a Google employee and a Red Hat employee who helped create this open source project now take it and create StackLock and ChainGuard and try to monetize it.
And Craig McLucky, one of the original Kubernetes gurus, out of Google. So pretty brainy pair.
Mhm.
You did, what's the one you did last show?
Trusty.
Trusty, that was it. And Minder is the other open source tool that they come out with. Minder is allows you to enroll repositories a little bit like, I found a little bit like the OpenSSF scorecard.
Mhm.
Allows you to create elaborate rules that can check your CI/CD environments to make sure your repositories are configured correctly. And then it has a system within which it can say pass or fail, and then even create alerts. You can run your own, I think it probably says in here, allows you to kind of run your own kind of clunky local server that then it can monitor all the time, and then even do auto remediation. That was really interesting to me. And so I tried to get
Might
this
have
to
to
work.
zoom in a bit if you're going to go through.
What's that?
Just zoom in 1+.
One more on this one?
Yeah. There we go.
Oh, all right, cool. Thank you. So I went to the install Minder. I did this. The brew worked just fine. Let's see, where's my thing? So I've got Minder in there. If I do Minder-H, I get all my commands. Cool. I know it works, right? So the brew install, brain dead, super easy. Then it said quick start with Minder. Just do Minder quick start. This crashed and burned badly. I can probably, I've got past it, but just to let you know, if you do the quick start, it does a nice little thing where it says enroll your provider. And what that means is there's only one provider at the moment, and that's GitHub. It doesn't support any other CI/CD platform. It's just GitHub. So, and then register your repos, and then create a rule and create a profile. So this is a nice, if this worked, amazing. It just doesn't. You could say yes. I don't know if it'll work because I'm already enrolled. It might blow up, but it's telling you what it's about to do. And repositories, you can say yes, and deadline. Okay, good. Same error. This is the same error I got the first time around. What the heck does deadline exceeded mean? I have no flippant idea.
Interesting. I'm wondering if this is using GitHub's OIDC, just like other GitHub actions do. And because it's a
right.
short time, right, for the authentication.
I think you're right. And it just dies a death instantly. However, if you ignore the quick start and you see what it was trying to run there, it actually does a good job. And what was also interesting here is that there's a little Minder quick start where it talks about doing the Minder auth login. Now that wasn't in the instructions.
Yeah.
It is on the GitHub. So it's like, oh, right. So I ended up going and doing the Minder auth login. Oops, that was no good. Minder auth login, that did work, and it went to StackLock, which then went to GitHub. We got permissions. It came back to me, and suddenly it was like, all right. So I think there's a bug in their quick start that doesn't do that part, which is a little bit annoying. And then manually, I was able to run that. And it then went to GitHub, launched a browser, created the right permissions, came back again. I didn't get the deadline thing. So the manual method does work.
Okay.
And you can see that worked, then enrolled, and you say yes. And it bombed out again. Let's see. RPC, yeah, so you get something slightly different this time. This is what happened. I'm just letting you know there's lots of goofs going on in here. So I think skip the quick start, go for the Minder enroll provider GitHub, and do it all manually, because eventually it did work. Now it was connected. This is the pain I went through the last few hours.
Yeah. Do you have to grant access in GitHub to it? Because it's making a request to GitHub saying, hey, can you give me access to these GitHub accounts, right?
Yeah. And I did do this like an hour ago. And it did pop up and do the right thing. I may have to redo the auth. Let's try that, because maybe I got logged out. Minder auth login. Okay. Let me just bring this onto the screen so you can see. So this just happened.
Look away.
So now, yeah, exactly. Let me get this off the screen and log in. So it is a bit of a pain in the backside, honestly, to get all this stuff working.
Aren't you happy it's not easy for an external provider to sign in and use your GitHub account and tokens?
I do think it's good that it's very difficult. It's just that I'm going to have two-factor authentication now.
Damn, those security people making it hard.
What is up with this? Right, exactly.
I am really curious to see, because half of the selling point of this is you can build it into your CI/CD pipeline, so your GitHub Actions and things like that, and then basically, like you said, you have a server that reaches out that's checking and authenticating everything that's done in the CI/CD pipeline. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's probably easier to describe than even to show you, but I want to show you. So let me just get past this annoying hurdle. We have lots of time, so it's fine. Oh God!
Hey, Michael, man.
Yeah.
I'll just fill time. Anybody want to joke?
There we go. Two-factor. I'm being redirected.
Ta-da. It's funny because I get to see what he's doing behind the screen or behind the scenes. All right.
Oh, yeah,
successfully logged in.
All right. Okay, I've successfully logged in. Now does it let me do... Hold on. StreamYard thing.
Minder server. So because the server is local on your local host.
There.
And then
now that I just log in,
all the repos that you have.
And that says, what one do you want in? And I'll do...
Register. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I'll do demo code. I'll do ones that I know have CI/CD in them as well. Ooh, checkoff. Is that there? Gitty does.
What's in the gin repo? You saving that for later? Friday night?
I don't know what that is. It's at it. Kubernetes will help a build for sure. Your demo, your Slack Lambda. Sure. There should be. And I've already registered a few. So there should be a few more. And in there. And then you can go see which ones you actually registered. So you can just say list all of my registered repos. And some from earlier. This is where we always with these command line tools, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, well, we're expecting you to have a huge HD screen here that allows you to see all the ones. So I've got BeerTuber. I added our website. And yeah, there we go. All right. So then you want to create a rule or a profile, which I already have created. And you create a rule called secret scanning, which you add. And I'll show you those now. Let's just jump right in because I've got the rules area.
Okay.
Oh, secret. So you create a rule and then you have a profile associated to the rule. The profile associates the rule with the repositories and the actions associated with those repositories.
Interesting.
Makes sense?
Using
There's a relationship.
So they went with OPA.
Oh, shoot. I can't hear you. Why not?
Oh. Yeah, I don't know. What'd you do?
2 seconds. Let me just verify my audio still functions.
Yours does. Maybe not mine.
There we go. Yeah, audio is working.
Shout out to B-Sides.
I have one of those
happening tomorrow. Yeah, good point. Michael, man. Yeah. Shout out B-Sides.
So that makes sense. You create a rule. You associate the rule via a profile. So if we look at the profile YAML, it's going to say GitHub profile on my GitHub. Alert is on. Remediate is off. This is the name of the rule, and it's enabled. So you can add as many rules as you want to your profile, and away you go. And I think you can be as granular as just saying this GitHub at this repository. So you can see there's these YAML connectivity going on. And then from there, you can try and Create profile, check the status of the profile. This will be generic. So if I do this, it's telling me that generally my whole profile is failing,
Okay.
which is kind of useless. So you do the detailed view. And it tells you now, I apologize in advance now because this is going to get weird, but I just want you to see the fail success. So this is just checking to see if secrets scanning is enabled on the repository.
Okay.
And it's breaking it down. Repo name, repo owner, repo ID. Here's the rule. Here's the information. These have failed. Now, BeerTuber, my YouTube account, does because I did check in a secret into there by accident one time. I do have secret scanning turned on that one, and it passed.
It's okay. We know that's your favorite child. It's fine.
Yes, I know it is my favorite child, and it is really small on the screen. I will zoom in just so you can kind of see what it is saying.
So that's cool. So it's using basically OPA engine. It's pulling information from GitHub about what's been enabled or not, and then it's just checking it against these policies, basically.
Yeah.
And then putting the output. Okay.
It reminded me a lot of Cloudsploit, one of the early open source CSPM tools that had YAML rules. Originally Cloudsploit was a script written by Matt Fuller that went through the rules, would check and would produce output like this. And then it became a SaaS tool, but you can see where this is going from StackLock's perspective. And then the rules list started to grow and grow and grow. And then they added auto remediation. So that's why you need a persistent server running in order to make sure that you're regularly in some way checking with some kind of cadence, or maybe based on webhooks to see anytime something changes in your configuration. Are you still compliant with our rules? That's the kind of very, very quick version of it, but it goes beyond a normal CSPM. So I went and downloaded their test rules. Oh, there is also a spelling mistake. Multiple confusions involving the word rule types. Their directory name is rule-types. When they tell you to create a rule in the instructions here, it won't work. Where is it? I got to figure out where we get there. See, it says minder. Yeah, but that's wrong too.
Okay.
See, rule type. There's no underscore
actually,
at all. So you actually have to do it without the underscore. And I already have the rule, so it's going to be fine. It's going to say it already exists.
All right.
But nevertheless, the instructions are wrong. There's an underscore. There's no underscore, and the directory has a dash. It's like, do you have 3 people working on this project? At least.
Well, I mean, this is an easy fix. Command F.
Yeah, it is.
Place all.
Yeah. So I'm going to go into real types anyway. And all right. And they only have one provider, GitHub. So I have 2 different autocompletes going at the same time. I ought to fix that.
Fight.
Yeah, really. Okay. So maybe I'll make that a little bigger so you can see.
Perfect.
These are the rules that I went and downloaded from them that I could turn on that are already pre-written, which is kind of cool. Let me just pop that above so you can see it. Yeah, you've got automatic branch deletion, branch protection, allow. Okay, all the branch protection good things are here. CodeQL enables Docker file no latest. So if you're referencing a Docker file somewhere in an action, looking for pinned actions as well. Looking for Trivy to actually be there.
That's interesting.
As an action. So it's just and you can take a look at the rule. Providers GitHub, guidance, information, Trivy scan, and this is an example action. It's looking for that. And then you can see, go down here and say, okay, do we see the action in the right space? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Looking for job and step and the way it iterates through. So, okay. I mean, if you definitely know you have to have Trivy in there and you want to check it, but
is Minder open? Are they open to new profiles /checks? Right?
Oh,
'Cause-
I think it's all open source. Yeah, they probably are hoping people like start populating this thing like crazy, right?
okay. Well, we got to go create like a checkoff, a rocks cutoff.
Well, what's funny about this is Chekhov has all these same rules.
Yeah.
Like this is not an extension. This is not better than what Chekhov does, except it has the ability, in particular. Let's take a look at this one. It's very cool. This checks for vulnerabilities in either requirements or npm. There it is. npm, Go, or PyPy dependency files. So somewhere in the server, there's an SCA, software
because
composition
that's
analysis
trusty.
tool.
Because trusty
That's
has
trusty.
Go. I think it has Node, Go, Python, and I want to say Rust too. Or maybe they haven't implemented Rust. But yeah, the whole thing was they would go and look at the packages online, right, and verify how trustworthy the package is. So they're pulling information from that too and using it for vulnerabilities.
There you go. So this is a crossover rule that pulls trusty and verifies. And if it can, we'll create a pull request to change the file.
Interesting.
So that's if you get the server running. So I thought that's actually pretty clever, which is that remind me more of a CSPM, except in addition to it just looking at posture management, or what did I call it? CI/CD SPM. It's also looking at referenced GitHub reference materials like dependencies.
And you can almost bet that
goes.
The paid product is probably going to take all of this stuff and map it to like a salsa framework or something like that and show you which of your applications are salsa level 3. It's like, okay, you have vulnerabilities, you have compliance check or configuration checks, you have attestation and signing and verification at runtime, right? Like if you have all those things, then okay, you're compliant at level 3 or level 2 or level 4. Sort of taking the friction away from implementing something like that, because right now it's a lot of different services you have to tie together, right? To be like, oh, okay, I have GitHub and CI/CD scanning and runtime with so and so.
I agree completely. So I went in just to make sure it worked. I went into BeerTuber, and I could go into say ours. You go into settings. It was kind of cool because it pointed out certain areas where I hadn't really been playing in. So a lot of the checks are to do with code security and analysis, and Dependabot is there. Secret scanning is there. It's disabled. So if I were to enable this now and enable blocking commits, presto, I should be able to rerun that status check on wherever that is. Probably a million miles back. Probably easier to just cut and paste the stupid command again to go grab it. Was it status? No. Really, provider. Where? I want the detailed one.
Yeah, there it is. Right at the top.
One. No,
Steve hates hitting the little copy button on the side.
I do. Oh, good. It's right there at the bottom. There's our success. It happened to be the last one. Very convenient.
That's pretty
so
quick
we passed that. Yeah, it's pretty good. And you can click through the docs and it takes you to the GitHub instructions that say, this is why you failed. Here's the instruction. Here's the GitHub instruction that takes you there. So I think just as a command line tool, I thought it's good. And it is definitely, you could see scale it as a SaaS. It is a CI/CD SPM, which doesn't exist, but that's what it is.
And it's pretty perfect for the individual. Like run it against your GitHub account, see what things you're working on, and you can make adjustments to make sure your stuff isn't getting hacked, right? Like it's pretty good for a small tool.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think there are competing tools out there. Like, I mean, if you look at Bridge Crew and we incorporated Cider in, Cider does this stuff too. And so, but it's the thing that you're guessing, the incorporation into checking for signing, checking for attestation, checking for salsa, that's next level. I can totally see that coming.
That's what the corporations would want, right? They just don't know how to build these frameworks internally at large enterprises, so they want a tool that does it for them.
Yeah, and I did go and compare it with the OpenSSF scorecard rules, and it's very, very, again, very, very close. If you use
Yeah.
It's just
We're gonna
This
hand
is
it both. There's
advanced.
something, yeah.
Yeah, this is advanced beyond what scorecard does. I would say now, even already, but it's very close.
Interesting.
Top of the hour.
Yes, top of the hour. Steve and I will be back in the new year. So if we don't see you, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We'll be back with our 4.0 version, big release coming up next year. So if you want to catch a beer with us over the holidays and vent your frustrations of our hot takes, let us know. Until the new year, Steve and I will be very drunk, drinking beer. We'll see you next time on C9K.